All right, good evening, everybody. Jim Dabbelt coming to you once again with yet another Facebook Watch Live party. Tonight, it's an honor to talk to a young lady who I met, early 90s when
Mhm.
she was a rising star in Logan, Ohio, and she played at a very high level AAU program with Tuck Connor, who I spoke with earlier today, by the way. He says hello. And Katie Smith is with me now. And Katie, first of all, thank you for joining me and congratulations on everything you've accomplished so far. We'll go into it a little bit, but I just want to say thank you for our longtime friendship and what you've done for the game and what you're going to continue to do for the game.
Yeah, it's been a blast. And first for you, it's you've known me for the majority of my career and as a person and a player, and all that you do for girls and women's basketball and just the exposure. Like it's funny. Like we play basketball and we have these careers, but there's so many people behind the scenes. You brought up Tuck. I mean, he was influential in everything. The whole AAU back when it was a little different than it is now, and
Much different, yeah.
yeah, so it's a lot of fun to always connect with folks that have kind of been there from the beginning.
Definitely. So let's start with your early career. Let's talk about Logan High School. You kind of made the name for yourself on that stage there at Logan High School, and your senior
Right.
year. Yeah, your senior
On
year.
a stage, you mean by on a legit stage,
It
right?
was a legit stage. Yeah, it was a legit stage at the old Logan High School. I saw you guys play your banner there one year, and I'd never been there before. I'm like, wow, this is a little bit different.
Yeah.
Obviously, you played there, your whole career. So you get to your state finals. You go to your senior year. You make it to Columbus. You beat Boardman and Worcester to get out of the regionals. You beat Vandalia Butler, a good, solid team out here in Dayton, by 12 to get to the finals. Then you run into a juggernaut with Pickerington. Good, hard-fought game. You lose by 7, but it's a chance for you to finish out your high school career the right way in Columbus.
Yeah, it was. I talk to people all the time and they ask you about your career, and of course the winning is sure the Olympic gold medals and championships, but honestly, like my senior year, the state championship was one of my most favorite sporting experiences. Obviously Logan, we had the best fans, and my teammates and our fans traveled, and then we get to play against Pickerington, who's also purple and white, and
Right.
and I committed to Ohio State, but the whole St. John Arena was packed. It was sold out, tons of purple and white everywhere. And then on top of that, you just had basketball fans who came to watch. And, obviously we didn't win the game, but it is one of my fondest memories of just the atmosphere and the connection with our fans and kind of that whole journey. So still one of my favorites to this day, even though we didn't win.
And it's one of those things where you had a great team, so I'm sure you keep in contact with a lot of your teammates, and as you guys all continue to kind of stay in the game a little bit and get to follow your career. But you went from Logan, then you stayed local. You went to Ohio State University, and boom, right out of the gate, your freshman year, you helped lead them all the way to the national championship game against Texas Tech. Talk about what an eye opener that was, going from little Logan, Ohio, to being on the biggest stage in college basketball.
Yeah, so it was different, but it was kind of the same for me. It was, even when in high school, you had your kind of goals and dreams and what you were working towards, right? And once those window opportunities opened up, like, oh, you can go to college on a scholarship, and oh wow, what's the Olympics look like, and how do they get there? And the same thing happened for Ohio State, is that you're like, okay, if I work hard, if I keep my nose clean, and I do the things that I think I can, and just put my nose down and do work, then maybe good things will happen and some of these opportunities will develop. But no one knew that we would end up making a run to the Final Four. Not I, not anybody. But it's those, I think, are the most fun too, are the unexpected, where we had a group of seniors who were talented and competitive, and then a bunch of freshmen. We had 5 freshmen. And then our sophomores and juniors were nice pieces. And man, it just came together, and we had some really big wins and won games and just took off. And those are the memories and the relationships that just kind of last forever. But it was a kind of Cinderella year in a way, and just unexpected. And again, another memory, a fond memory with those people, Nancy Darsh and the fans, even though it didn't, end in a win. in a championship, it still is one of my, right up there with everything else.
Oh, sure. And then you leave Ohio State as a two-time Player of the Year in the Big Ten, and a really big honor later on down the road is you were the first female athlete at Ohio State to have your number retired. Tell me what that means, because that's like, I mean, to be the first at anything is big, but that's such a huge honor for you.
It is. It was. It's always interesting when you're in the middle of your career because you're kind of focused on that. But when you think about Ohio State and you think about basketball and you think about the women's side, you think about the men's side, and you just think about the breadth of the university and just how big it is in the state of Ohio and nationally and worldwide. To be considered and have your jersey hanging up in the rafters, it's really surreal and wild because when you go in the gym, you're like, that's me. It's like it almost catches you a little off guard. Because anybody, I mean, lots of people probably listen, and you just kind of do your job, right? You want to be good at what you do, and the things that come along with it, you really don't. You're not aiming for that. You're just trying to do the best you can at the highest level, and when things happen because of that, they're really rewarding and they feel good. But it was very special to have my number hanging up in my alma mater's arena. So.
And then you stay close by. You played 2 years in the ABL with Brian, I believe.
Yep.
Brian was a coach at Columbus, and then boom, you took off and you went into the WNBA. You're the first player in the history of the league and in professional women's ball, first player to score 5,000 points, which is very unbelievable when you think about. You had a great career, decade and a half in the WNBA. Tell me about that. The excitement of playing against the best players, honestly, in the world, more than likely.
That's what you want. You know what I mean? This is what when I was in Logan, I was always looking out, and my parents would always share what everybody else was doing around the state. And then when I played in the AAU and traveled, and you get to see about other people in other states, and then in college, then in the pros, and now you get to play at that level and like hone your craft and try to figure out how to win with your crew against others. I mean, it was so much fun, like to play with that level of player, to compete on a daily basis and practice. The best teams I've ever been on, our practices were harder than games. The practices, we would go at each other. You would be prepared. You would talk mess. You would beat each other up. And then in the games, you're like, all right, let's do this. We're in this together, and let's win some games. So just a blast to be able to play basketball, something I love for so long. And at that level, because anybody who's a competitor wants to play and challenge yourself. And it also motivates you, right, to stay in shape for all those years. I mean, I played till I was 39.
Yeah.
So there's a little fear factor on, I got to chase such and such around a 22-year-old when you're 38. So there's that little motivation that keeps you going to say, hey, I need to do this cardio today. I need to get myself up and keep working.
One of the coolest things has to be 3 gold medals for the United States in the Olympics. You're playing alongside the other best players in the world. People that people hear about all the time, Sue and Diana and that whole group coming up through the ranks. You walk out of there 3 times as a gold medal. Talk about that experience, just playing with the best players in the United States. Obviously, you're playing in the WNBA, so you probably see them playing against them anyway. But now you're suiting up with them, and you're taking on the world, so to speak. How cool was that for you?
Well, it was unbelievable. As a kid, I love the Olympics, and I love the Summer Olympics. It's like, whoa, like I just sit by the TV, and it would always think in my head when I started to get into basketball and understand that I could do some things with it. I was like, man, how'd they get there? Like, is there a tryout? How do they just pick? And then obviously got involved in the how they do it. And so then I had a real chance to make it. And it was phenomenal. Like, there was so much pride of being able to represent your country, but it's way bigger than that. It's your family. Like, you're literally playing. And then when you get your gold medal, it's the pride that you have for every single person that had a hand in what you did. I mean, you, for all the years, my coaches, my family, my brothers, my first grade teachers, every single person that knew me, I felt like I took along on this journey, which made it, even mean that much more to me. And I hope to them, because then they got to enjoy it and I get to share my gold medal with them. But to be able to play with those players and to say that you are the best in the world, that this is what we do, and this is the level that we're on. I mean, that's what you want. You want to be able to say that. And the one thing for us with USA Basketball, we take pride in being a part of it. And at the end of the day, it's one team, one goal. And the coach would always ask, does anybody remember who started in 96? Does anybody remember who led the team in scoring? And nobody can remember. All you remember, did you win a gold medal or did you not? So at the end of the day, play your role, do your job. When you get in, bust your tail. But there's not enough places. So just at the end of the day, it's a gold medal or bust. And we've been fortunate to have a nice streak so far.
So I'm going to ask you a couple off the cuff, quick questions, quick answers about your three teams, your three Olympic teams.
All right.
Taking yourself out of the equation.
Okay.
Most competitive player that you played with on the Olympic team.
Most competitive. You're probably going catch. Catch was probably one. DT's another. But yeah, catch probably on both ends. Like, doesn't take plays off, right? Yeah.
Who's the funniest player?
Diana and Sue are hilarious to me. Like, they're some of my favorite teammates, some of my favorite people. And DT is one of my favorite players in general, just of like hanging and playing against and watching stuff.
So when you were coming, let's go back for a second. When you were growing up as a kid, when I first met you, what one player inspired you? Everybody now looks up to the players, like on the guy's side with LeBron, or the girl's side. Who was the player, the female that inspired you when you were growing up?
I grew up as a Bobcat fan, so OU, and Carolyn Mast was that OU team. I can't remember the years it was. Must have been the 80s. But Carolyn Mast was a post player down at Ohio University, and I thought just solid, could play, and they had great teams. Amy Pritchard was coaching during that time. And, she was one, and then watched some of Ohio State, like Lisa Klein and those guys. But those were kind of mine. I met Teresa Edwards at a camp one time. She spoke to us, and I had her poster up on my wall. So she was another one, but it wasn't on TV enough, right? They didn't get to see them always, but you would hear about them. But Teresa was one that I definitely was like, a little starstruck when I met her. So T was another one. I've obviously been her teammate since, and just have enjoyed getting to know her.
Yeah, definitely. Probably, I don't know, this might be your biggest honor. The Olympics is pretty special. But when you got that call to go into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame, that had to have been like, I've arrived. I mean, not that you haven't arrived before, but that was like, to go into the Hall of Fame, that just shows that you've gotten respect from everybody along the way. Talk about your Naismith Hall of Fame honor.
It is. It kind of doesn't validate you, but it does in a sense. As a player, it's like, all right, like, what you did and the work you did and the success you had is people noticed, and they respect how you did it and how hard you worked at it, and you did it for a long time. It wasn't just a one-year story. You put in the work and had the numbers and the success throughout your career. And that's what it is. It's bigger than just I had a 5-year career, boom, it was awesome. So it means a lot, because people don't always see the work that you put in. Like, they're not in the gym with you. They're not in the rehab when you bust your knee. They're not, there's way more to it than just going to play a basketball game. And the mental, the physical, the everything. So it meant everything. It's still hard to say, it's like, oh yeah, Hall of Famer. Like, you're supposed to introduce yourself. It still sounds odd. But it's like, when you can literally say I'm in the Naismith Hall of Fame, it's nutty. But I got the call during the women's Final Four that was in Columbus. That was my year. It was 2018. And for me, it was fitting, because it was right here, our first Final Four we got to host, and with like all the people that are part of my life and career. And I actually chose to stay in Columbus instead of going to the men's Final Four to get introduced. And to me, that's where I should have been, is right here at home with the people that have been a part of my career on a day-to-day basis. And it was wonderful to celebrate it here in Ohio.
It's funny, and I don't know if this picture was from the Hall of Fame, but I could have sworn it was you and Larry Bird.
Oh man, yeah, it was.
That's my man. That's my man coming up. When I was a kid, that was the guy I looked up to, was Larry Bird. And of course, The Last Dance man, Michael Jordan. But Larry Bird was a guy that a lot of people really liked, the way he busted his butt every single night.
Oh,
like,
and he's
when I saw that picture, I saw
Oh,
that picture.
my
Tell me
gosh.
what it was like to meet Larry Bird.
I mean, you had Reggie Miller sitting in front of me. Larry's over here, and then we go up on the stage with all the Hall of Famers, and he's there, and I say hello, and it's just it's because this is who you watched,
Yeah.
and even me being coached by Bill Lambier and knowing Rick Mahorn and Isaiah Thomas was part of our team as the president. Like, these are the guys I watched, the Bad Boys, and I love them. All of this, like, it's just so to hear their stories and to be able to meet them in a setting, it was pretty cool. Just like, oh wow, that's such and such and that's such and such. But it's such a small world, and it was. There's a few that catch me off guard, and I'm like, I don't get autographs, but I enjoy shaking hands and just saying I love what they did and love watching.
Yeah, exactly. Right. We'll wrap it up here in a minute, but tell me about what you're doing now. I tell everybody, I guess, what you're doing. I know what you're doing, but tell everybody else what you're doing now. Out in Minnesota, you spent a lot of years playing there, and now you're back on the bench.
Yeah, I'm excited. I obviously, after playing, I moved over to the coaching side and was an assistant, bounced to the head, and then New York got new ownership, and now I'm with Minnesota as an assistant coach, and really excited to go back to the team I started my WNBA career, and I spent 6.5 seasons with, along with the head coach being Cheryl Reeve, who is one of the best in the business, and she was my coach in Detroit, and we spent a lot of time there. We have a lot of respect, and she's a good friend, and I'm really excited to be challenged to add whatever I can to bust my tail. And whenever we get back to work in person, we are working now.
Right.
A lot of Zoom calls, a lot of film, a lot of communication with our players just to try to keep them engaged until we do know what's happening for the summer. But I'm really excited to be back as an assistant and to keep learning, keep growing, and try to help any way possible.
Excellent. Difference in the game today. You and I came up almost together in the same time back in the early 90s. And, the game has changed. I don't know if the game has changed, but the dynamics has changed. So tell me your thoughts on that.
So first of all, there's 6-foot guards playing the PG position. Like, there's a size across the board. From guards down, there's just a size advantage. And I think the skill set, so the bigs are guard like. It's not a predominantly post up type of league or basketball anymore. Like, yes, you have some dominant post players and centers. Majority of them, you got to be able to shoot the ball, handle the ball, and do multiple things. So I think the skill level, versatility of players has changed, and there's more versatility for everybody. You could be a specialist back in the day and be able to just shoot or just drive and maybe make it, but now it's really hard to have that. And then it's, I just think that's the biggest key. And then on top of that, some of the rules, the officiating and how it's more space, more scoring. So that's a little different. I mean, you can, with the Last Dance, they had the MJ rule, and it's very different NBA. So there's a little bit of that as well, just less contact, a little bit more space with the defensive 3 seconds. But in general, the size and the versatility of players is different.
Speaking of the size of the players, my good friend Rick, who you met at the Dayton Shootout a couple of years ago when you worked with me, wanted me to ask you this question, which is a great tie into what you just said. If you had a 6'3" daughter, would you want to focus on her play in the guard right now? Would you really back in the day, 6'3", your butt stayed in the post. Nowadays, 6'3", you're shooting threes and you're handling the ball. What would you do if you had a 6'3" girl, if you're coaching a 6'3" girl at a youth level? Do you focus on just keeping her in the paint, or do you try to develop a little bit of outside skills at that size?
I think you do a little bit of everything. Ball handling needs to be key all the time because it's the only way you can do anything on the court. If you can't dribble, you can't see, you can't do anything. Shooting, you can continue to expand your range. Your form is the same from inside to out. It's just using your body. So again, just working on the fundamentals and allowing them to understand the game and the reads. But I would do a little bit of everything. At that size, you need a post-up game. Even at 6 foot, even at 5'10", you're going to have little guards on you. So being able to have the versatility and the understanding of when to do things is also of learning the game. But all the fundamentals can be used by bigs and guards to give you the flexibility to do different things on the court. And then you continue to grow as you get older.
Definitely. Last question for you tonight. The book I'm writing, of course, you're clearly in there for the 30-year history of girls basketball in Ohio. So congratulations.
Thank you.
one of the questions that you'll be getting from me for the book, but I'm curious. If you could sit down with a 16-year-old version of Katie Smith right now, having been through the whole war, all the way through it, what advice would you give that kid right now to be able to be the best player they can be and get to the highest level?
At the end of the day, it's cliche. There's multiple things, but at the end of the day, there's a work ethic. There's a competitive passion, work ethic to it all, and it has to be on a daily basis. It's not hey, I'm going to work out today. I had a really good workout, and then I take 3 days off. It's a daily investment into your craft, both physically and both the mental, of being a good teammate, understanding your role at certain times. Every year it changes. But I think it's the work that has to go in to the physical and the mental, and it is a daily investment into what you want to do. And that's the hard part of being disciplined to do it every single day. And that's what separates people. It's not the big things. It's the little things that actually separate winning teams, separate some of our talent. So that would be one thing I would say.
Excellent. Katie Smith, thank you so much. It's such a great time to catch up with you, even though it's kind of strange times, because normally, like I said, we wouldn't be talking right now. You'd be getting ready for the season. But I wish you the best. Stay healthy. And like I said, to everybody who listens, you're the greatest players ever come out of this state, and it's an honor to still be connected after all these years. Thank you very much.
I appreciate it, Jim, always.
Thank you.
All right.